The merchant ship Starward Echo floated dead in space like a broken toy. Its metal hull was covered with black burn marks and deep scratches from flying rocks. Inside the ship, Captain Minho walked slowly down the dark hallway. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The lights flickered on and off, and the air smelled bad. "Captain, we have a problem," said Yuna, the ship's engineer. She was a young woman with grease on her hands and worry on her face. "The jump drive is completely broken. Someone destroyed it on purpose." Minho felt his heart sink. Without the jump drive, they could not travel faster than light. They were stuck between two star systems with nothing around them but empty space. The nearest planet was so far away that it would take hundreds of years to reach it with normal engines. "How long do we have?" Minho asked. Yuna looked at her small computer screen. "The air recycler is failing. The food maker stopped working yesterday, maybe 3 days before the oxygen runs out completely." Minho closed his eyes. 3 days. He had 27 people on his ship. Some were human like him, but others came from different planets. There was Crystalline 7, who looked like a walking pile of blue crystals. She was the ship's navigator and came from the Vorthak people. There was also Whisperwind, who was made of gas and lived inside a special suit. The Nebulari were strange but very good at fixing communication systems. Then there was Swiftclaw, a young alien who looked like a mix between a cat and a bird. She was running away from her home planet because of a war. Minho had agreed to give her a ride to safety, but now they might all die together in the cold darkness of space. "What about the distress signal?" Minho asked. "Still working, but it's very weak," said Hyunwoo, the communications officer. He was sitting at his desk, pressing buttons and looking frustrated. "The pirates damaged most of our equipment when they attacked us. I don't think the signal can reach very far. The pirates had come out of nowhere 3 days ago. They wanted to steal the cargo, but when they found out it was just food supplies for poor planets, they got angry. Instead of just leaving, they decided to destroy the ship's most important parts. They laughed as they flew away, leaving the Starward Echo to die slowly in space." "Sir, we need to make a decision soon," said Seojin, the security chief. He was a big man with scars on his face from old fights. "We don't have enough power to keep everyone awake and alive. Some people need to go into the sleep pods." The sleep pods were special beds that could keep people alive for months using very little power. But if something went wrong with the ship, while people were sleeping, they would never wake up. Minho looked around at his crew. They all looked tired and scared, but they still trusted him to save them. The weight of responsibility felt heavy on his shoulders. "How many pods do we have?" he asked. 15 working pods, Yuna replied. "But we need at least 10 people awake to try to fix the ship and watch for rescue ships." That meant 15 people could sleep safely, while 12 others stayed awake to face death. Minho knew he would be one of the 12. A captain never abandons his ship or his crew. "I'll make a list," Minho said quietly. "The youngest and the civilians go into the pods first. Essential crew stays awake." Swiftclaw made a small crying sound. In her language, it sounded like a bird singing sadly. "Captain Minho, I don't want to sleep. What if I never wake up? What if no one finds us?" Minho knelt down next to the young alien. She was only about as tall as his chest, and her big eyes were full of tears. "Swiftclaw, the sleep pods are the safest place on the ship right now. When rescue comes, we'll wake you up first, I promise." "But what if rescue doesn't come?" she asked. Minho didn't know how to answer that question. In this part of space, very few ships traveled. They were in what people called the empty zone, a place between the busy trade routes. The pirates had brought them here on purpose, knowing that no one would find them. "Rescue will come," he lied, trying to sound sure. "Someone will hear our signal." Crystalline 7 made a sound like wind chimes ringing. In her crystal language, this meant she was thinking hard. "Captain, my people have old songs about this place. They say it is cursed. Ships that come here are never seen again." "That's just old stories," Hyunwoo said, but his voice shook a little. "Every culture has scary stories about space." Whisperwind's voice came from her suit's speaker, sounding like air moving through pipes. My people also have legends about this region. We call it the Silent Dark. But our stories say that sometimes, when all hope is lost, mysterious ships appear to help. Fairy tales, Seojin said roughly. We need to focus on real solutions, not old stories. But Minho found himself thinking about those legends. Every space-traveling culture seemed to have stories about mysterious rescuers who appeared when things were hopeless. Ships that came from nowhere helped people and then disappeared. Most people thought these were just made-up stories to give hope to scared travelers. As the hours passed, the ship got colder and darker. More systems failed. The food maker completely stopped working, leaving them with only emergency rations. That tasted like cardboard. The water recycler made strange noises and produced water that tasted like metal. Minho made his list of who would go into the sleep pods. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. He chose the youngest crew members, the passengers, and anyone who wasn't absolutely needed to run the ship. Swiftclaw was at the top of the list even though she begged to stay awake. "Please, Captain," she said as they walked toward the pod room. "I can help. I have good eyes. I can watch for ships. Your eyes will be more useful after you've slept." "Safely," Minho told her. "When we find a way out of this, we'll need you to be strong and healthy." One by one, the chosen crew members climbed into the sleep pods. The pods were white and smooth like giant eggs. When someone lay down inside, a clear cover would close over them, and they would slowly fall into a deep sleep. Their bodies would use almost no energy, and they could survive for months. Minho watched as each pod's lights turned from red to green, showing that the person inside was safely asleep. Swiftclaw was in pod number 7. Before the cover closed, she looked at him with her big, scared eyes. "Wake me up when the rescue ship comes," she whispered. "I will," Minho promised. Now only 12 people were awake on the ship. They worked, in shifts, trying to fix what they could and watching for any sign of help. But as the second day passed, hope began to fade. The distress signal was getting weaker. The air was getting thinner. The ship was dying around them, and they were dying with it. On the third day, as Minho sat in his captain's chair staring out at the endless stars, he wondered if this was how it would end. Would their ship just drift forever in the silent dark, becoming another ghost story for future travelers? He closed his eyes and tried to stay strong. His crew was depending on him, even the ones who were sleeping. He couldn't give up, not yet. Somewhere out there in the vast emptiness, help might be coming. But the stars remained silent and the ship continued its slow drift toward death. 3 days had passed since they put half the crew into sleep pods. Captain Minho sat in his chair, staring at the stars through the big window. His stomach hurt from hunger, and his head felt dizzy from breathing bad air. The ship was quiet, except for the soft humming of failing machines. Suddenly, Hyunwoo jumped up from his communication desk. His eyes were wide with excitement and fear. "Captain, I'm getting something on the sensors." Minho's heart started beating fast. "What kind of something? Pirates coming back to finish us?" "No, sir. This is different." Hyunwoo's fingers moved quickly over his controls. "There's a ship out there, but it's moving in a very strange way. It's coming toward us at impossible speed." Seojun, the security chief, walked over to look at the screen. His hand moved to his weapon. "How fast are we talking about?" "Fast enough to tear any normal ship apart," Hyunwoo said, his voice shaking. "No ship can travel this fast in normal space without being destroyed. But the sensors don't lie. Something is coming and it's huge." Yuna looked up from her engineering station. She had grease on her face and looked very tired. "Maybe our sensors are broken. We've been hit pretty hard." "I checked everything twice," Hyunwoo replied. "The signal is real. And Captain, there's something else. The ship is using some kind of code I've never seen before. It's not from any known government or trading company." Minho felt cold fear in his stomach. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, showing a mess of numbers and symbols that made no sense. The code was completely different from anything they knew. It looked almost like a language, but not from any planet they had visited. "Could it be aliens we've never met before?" Yuna asked quietly. Maybe, Minho said. Or maybe it's something worse. Crystalline 7 made her wind chime sound of deep worry. She was one of the few awake crew members, and her crystal body was glowing dim blue with fear. Captain, this feels wrong. My people's old songs warn about ships that appear in the silent dark. They say some are friends, but others bring only death. How long until it gets here? Minho asked. Yunwoo looked at his screen again. At current speed, maybe 2 hours. But Captain, I don't understand how it's moving so fast without destroying itself. The physics don't work. Seojin checked his weapons. We should wake up the other security officers. If this is hostile, we need to be ready to fight. With what? Minho asked sadly. Our weapons are mostly broken, and we barely have power for life support. If whoever is coming wants to hurt us, we can't stop them. The next 2 hours felt like the longest of Minho's life. The crew took turns watching the sensors and trying to figure out what was approaching them. The ship's readings became more and more strange as their visitor got closer. Captain, Yuna said, looking at her engineering displays. I'm reading energy levels that shouldn't be possible. This ship's power source is hundreds of times stronger than ours, maybe thousands of times stronger. What kind of technology could do that? Minho wondered. I don't know, Yuna replied. It's completely beyond anything I've ever seen or heard about. Even the big military ships don't have power like this. Whisper Wind spoke from her gas suit, her voice sounding like wind through metal pipes. My people remember stories of great ships that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. But we thought they were just legends. Maybe legends are more real than we thought, Crystalline 7 said softly. As the mystery ship got closer, more details appeared on their sensors. It was massive, bigger than any ship they had ever seen. It was even bigger than the huge trading ships that carried goods between star systems, and much bigger than the warships that protected important planets. How big is it exactly? Minho asked. Hyunwoo checked his numbers 3 times before answering. About 5 kilometers long. That's bigger than most space stations, but it's moving like a small fighter ship. That should be impossible. Everything about this is impossible, Seojin muttered. He was cleaning his weapon for the 10th time, even though it probably wouldn't work against something so powerful. Then something even stranger happened. The mystery ship began to slow down. Instead of flying past them or crashing into them, it started moving more carefully. It changed direction slightly, adjusting its path to match the starward echo's drift through space. It's changing course, to meet us, Hyunwoo reported. Whatever it is, it knows we're here, and it's coming specifically for us. Minho felt his mouth go dry. Can you tell if it's scanning us? Yes, sir. Very detailed scans. It's looking at our hull damage, our power levels, even the number of life signs aboard. Whoever they are, they know exactly what condition we're in. The mystery ship continued to approach, moving with perfect control despite its huge size. As it got closer, they could see it more clearly through the windows. It was long and smooth, colored dark gray like a storm cloud. There were lights along its sides that pulsed in patterns they didn't recognize. Look at the design, Yuna whispered. It's not like any ship I've ever seen. The proportions are all wrong for the alien races we know. And see those markings on the hull? Minho looked where she was pointing. There were symbols painted on the side of the huge ship. They were angular and sharp, completely different from the flowing scripts of most known civilizations. Can you read them? He asked. Yunwoo worked at his translation computer for several minutes. Finally, he looked up with confusion on his face. The computer says these markings match an entry in the old Galactic database. But that doesn't make sense. What does it say? Minho asked impatiently. It says these are human markings, from something called the Terran Republic. Everyone stared at him. That's impossible, Seojin said. Humans are a new species. They barely have any ships, and the ones they do have are small and primitive. They live on just a few planets at the edge of known space. I know, Hyunwoo said. That's why it doesn't make sense, but the computer is sure about the translation. Minho thought about what he knew of humans. They were young compared to most space-traveling races. They had only been flying between stars for about 200 years. Most of the galaxy considered them to be friendly but not very important. They had basic technology and small ships. They were known for being helpful and honest in trade, but nobody thought they were powerful. This ship was clearly very powerful. Maybe the markings are fake, Yuna suggested. Maybe someone is pretending to be human. Before anyone could answer, their communication system crackled to life. A voice came through the speakers, speaking in perfect galactic standard language. It was a calm, confident voice that sounded completely human. "This is Admiral Jaiwan of the TRS Indomitable. We have detected your distress signal and are moving. To assist, please prepare to receive our boarding parties for emergency aid." The voice continued. "We know your ship has suffered severe damage and your life support is failing. We are here to help. Please respond if you are able to receive this message." Minho looked around at his crew. They all looked shocked. A human admiral? Commanding a ship bigger than anything they had ever imagined? It seemed impossible, but the voice sounded completely real and sincere. Hyunwoo looked at the captain with questioning eyes. "Should I respond, sir?" Minho thought quickly. They were dying. Their ship was almost dead. Even if this was some kind of trick, they had no choice but to trust whoever was offering help. "Yes," he said. "Tell them we accept their assistance." Hyunwoo pressed the communication button with shaking fingers. "This is the merchant vessel Starward Echo," Captain Minho responding. We accept your help. Please, we're running out of time." Admiral Jiwan's voice came back immediately, calm and professional. "Understood, Captain Minho. We're positioning our ship alongside yours now. Our medical team and engineers are preparing to board. How many crew members do you have, and what is your current condition?" Minho looked around at his tired crew. "We have 27 people total. 15 are in sleep pods to save oxygen. The rest of us are awake but in bad shape. Our jump drive is destroyed, life support is failing, and we have maybe 12 hours of breathable air left." "Copy that. We'll have people on your ship in 30 minutes. Please gather your awake crew in your main cargo bay. Our medical officer will need to examine everyone immediately." Through the big window, Minho watched the massive ship move closer. Despite its huge size, it moved with smooth precision. He could see small ships flying out from its belly, heading toward the Starward Echo. These smaller ships were still bigger than most fighters he had seen, and they flew in perfect formation. "Captain," Yuna said quietly, "I'm reading their power, signatures. Their technology is decades ahead of anything I know about, maybe centuries ahead. How is this possible for humans?" Seojin was watching the approaching ships through his weapon scope. "Those aren't primitive human ships. Look at the design, the way they move. This is advanced military hardware." Crystalline 7 made her worried, chiming sound. "Perhaps the legends of my people were true. Perhaps there are protectors in the silent dark after all." The first boarding ship attached to their airlock with a soft clang. Minho gathered his crew in the cargo bay as requested. They all looked nervous and scared. These might be rescuers, but they were also completely unknown. The airlock opened with a hiss of fresh, clean air. Minho was surprised by how good it smelled after breathing the stale, recycled air of his dying ship for days. A woman in a clean uniform stepped through the doorway. She was clearly human, with short black hair and calm, confident eyes. Behind her came more humans wearing different colored uniforms and carrying equipment that looked very advanced. "I'm Commander Do-yoon, Marine Corps," the first woman said. She looked around the cargo bay, quickly counting the crew members and checking their condition. "Is this everyone who's awake?" "Yes," Minho replied. He was surprised by how professional and efficient these humans seemed. "The others are in sleep pods on deck 3. A human woman with medical symbols on her uniform stepped forward. "I'm Dr. Yunbi. I need to check everyone's health immediately. Who has been awake the longest?" "Me, and my senior officers," Minho said. "We've been awake for 3 days since the attack." Dr. Yunbi opened a small device that looked like nothing Minho had ever seen. She pointed it at him, and it made soft beeping sounds. "You're dehydrated and malnourished, but not critically. The oxygen levels in your blood are low but acceptable." She moved to the next person. "This scan will help me understand how to treat everyone. While the doctor worked, Commander Do-hyun was talking to other humans who had come aboard. They spoke in quick professional phrases, organizing their rescue operation with military precision. Medical team to the sleep pod bay, engineering team to the engine room, communications team to the bridge. I want damage reports in 15 minutes. Minho watched in amazement as the human team spread out through his ship. They moved with confidence and purpose, like they had done this many times before. Their equipment was compact and advanced, and they seemed to understand the starward echo systems better than he did. Commander Do-hyun, Minho said, I have to ask, how did you find us? Our distress signal was very weak, and how did you get here so fast? Commander Do-hyun smiled slightly. We've been tracking your situation since the pirate attack 3 days ago. As for how we got here quickly, human ships are faster than most people realize. But that's impossible, Seojin said. Everyone knows that human technology is basic. You've only been in space for 200 years. People believe what they want to believe, Commander Do-hyun replied. Sometimes it's better to let them think you're less capable than you really are. One of the human engineers came back to the cargo bay. He was a young man with lieutenant symbols on his uniform. Commander, I've checked their engine room. The jump drive was sabotaged with military-grade explosives. This wasn't random pirates. Someone wanted to make sure this ship never flew again. Commander, Do-hyun's face became serious. Any idea who? The blast pattern looks like Korthak military demolition charges. But that doesn't make sense. The Korthak Empire is supposed to be at peace with everyone right now. Minho felt cold fear. The Korthak were a powerful military race known for their advanced weapons and ruthless tactics. If they were involved in the attack on his ship, it meant this wasn't just a random pirate raid. Why would the Korthak want to destroy a simple merchant ship, he asked. Commander Do-hyun looked at him carefully. Captain Minho, what exactly were you carrying in your cargo hold? Just food supplies for the refugee colonies on Bendara Prime. Nothing valuable or dangerous. Are you sure? Nothing else? No passengers with special backgrounds? No information or data that someone might want to keep secret? Minho thought about his crew and passengers. Most were just regular merchant sailors. But then he remembered Swiftclaw, the young Xanthari refugee they had picked up. She was running from her home planet because of a war, but she had never told them exactly why she needed to leave. There is one passenger, he said slowly. A Xanthari refugee named Swiftclaw. She's very young, maybe equivalent to a human teenager. She said she was running from a war on her planet, but she never gave us details. Commander Do-hyun and the lieutenant exchanged looks. Where is she now? The lieutenant asked. Sleep pod, 7. Why? Is she in danger? Possibly, Commander Do-hyun said. The Xanthari homeworld has been having civil wars for years. Sometimes those wars involve information that certain governments don't want to become public. Dr. Yoonbi finished her medical checks and came over to the group. Everyone is stable but needs immediate nutrition and clean air. I recommend bringing them all to our ship for proper medical care. What about the people in the sleep pods? Minho asked. We'll transfer the pods to our medical bay. They'll be safer there, and we can monitor them properly. Dr. Yoonbi looked kind but serious. Captain, your crew was about 6 hours away from permanent brain damage from oxygen starvation. You were very close to dying. A communication device on Commander Do-hyun's belt made a soft sound. She picked it up and listened to a voice that was too quiet for the others to hear. Her expression became more serious. Admiral Jiwon wants to speak with you personally, Captain Minho. Are you feeling well enough to come to our ship? Minho nodded. He was curious and grateful, but also very confused. Nothing about this rescue made sense. How had these humans found them so quickly? Why did they have such advanced technology? And why were they being so helpful without asking for anything in return? As they prepared to transfer to the human ship, Yuna came up to him quietly. Captain, I've been talking to their engineers. The technology they're using is at least 50 years ahead of anything in the known galaxy. Power sources, materials, computer systems, everything is more advanced than it should be possible for humans to have. What are you saying? Minho asked. I'm saying that maybe we don't know as much about humans as we thought we did. The transfer to the Indomitable took 2 hours. The human ship's interior was clean, bright, and spacious. The walls were made of materials that seemed to glow with their own light, and the air smelled fresh like a garden. Minho's crew members looked around in wonder as they were taken to comfortable medical rooms. The sleep pods were moved carefully to a medical bay that was bigger and better equipped than most hospitals Minho had seen. Dr. Yunbi assured him that his sleeping crew members would be safe and could be awakened whenever he wanted. Finally, Commander Dohyun led him to a lift that took them up through the center of the massive ship. As they rose, Minho could see, through transparent walls into different sections of the vessel, there were thousands of people working at various jobs, humans and aliens working together with calm efficiency. "How many people are on this ship?" he asked. "About 8,000, Commander Dohyun replied. "The Indomitable is one of our larger vessels, 8,000 people. Minho's merchant ship carried 30 people and felt crowded. This was more like a flying city than a spaceship." The lift stopped, and they walked down a hallway lined with windows showing the stars outside. At the end of the hallway were doors that opened automatically. Beyond them was a large room with a woman sitting behind a desk. She stood up as they entered. She was tall and confident, with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. Her uniform had more decorations than the others, marking her as high-ranking military. "Captain Minho," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Admiral Jiwon. Welcome aboard the Indomitable." Admiral Jiwon's office was larger than the bridge of most ships Minho had commanded. The walls were covered with star charts and displays showing the positions of hundreds of ships across the galaxy. It was clear that this wasn't just one ship traveling alone. It was part of a massive fleet. "Please sit down," Admiral Jiwon said, pointing to a comfortable chair. "I imagine you have many questions." Minho sat down, still feeling weak from his ordeal but curious about everything around him. "Admiral, I have to be honest. Nothing about this makes sense to me. How did you find us? How did you get here so fast? And how do humans have technology this advanced?" Admiral Jiwon smiled and walked over to one of the star charts. "Let me answer your questions one at a time. First, we found you because we've been watching that region of space. We knew about the pirate attack within hours of when it happened. But we're in the middle of nowhere. There are no human colonies or bases anywhere near here." "That's what most people think," the Admiral said. "The truth is more complicated. Captain, how much do you really know about human expansion into space?" Minho thought about it. "Everyone knows the basic history. Humans developed space travel about 200 years ago. You have colonies on maybe 30 planets, mostly at the edge of the galaxy. Your technology is good but not exceptional. Your military is small. Most governments consider humans to be friendly but not very important in galactic politics." "That's exactly what we want them to think," Admiral Jiwon said. "The truth is very different." She pressed a button on her desk and the wall displays changed. Now they showed a map of the entire galaxy with thousands of small lights scattered across it. Many of the lights were in areas that Minho thought were empty space. "Each of these lights represents a human ship on patrol," Admiral Jiwon explained. "We have vessels watching over the major trade routes, the dangerous regions, and the empty zones where ships sometimes get into trouble. We've been doing this for over 50 years. Minho stared at the display. There were human ships everywhere, far from any known human territories. But why? Why keep it secret? Because the galaxy is more dangerous than most people realize. There are threats out there that individual governments can't handle alone. Pirates are just the beginning. There are hostile alien races beyond the galactic rim, ancient weapons left behind by dead civilizations, and political conflicts that could turn into galactic wars." Admiral Jiwon sat down across from Minho. "We decided long ago that instead of competing with other races for territory and resources, we would focus on becoming strong enough to help everyone. We built our ships in secret, developed our technology quietly, and started patrolling the galaxy without asking for permission or recognition. That must cost enormous amounts of money and resources," Minho said. "It does. But we believe it's worth it. Every time we save a ship like yours, Every time we stop a pirate attack or help refugees reach safety, we make the galaxy a little bit safer for everyone." A soft chime sounded, and Commander Do-hyun's voice came from a communication device. "Admiral, Captain Minho's crew is asking to speak with him. Also, we've learned something important about their passenger Swiftclaw." "Bring her in," Admiral Ji-won said. A few minutes later, Commander Do-hyun entered with Swiftclaw. The young Zenthari looked much better than when Minho had last seen her. Her feathers were clean and bright, and her eyes were alert instead of filled with fear. "Captain Minho," she said happily, running over to hug him. "The humans woke me up and gave me the most wonderful food. I feel so much better." "I'm glad you're safe," Minho said, hugging her back. But he noticed that Admiral Ji-won and Commander Do-hyun were watching Swiftclaw very carefully. "Swiftclaw," Admiral Ji-won said gently, "we need to ask you some questions about why you left your home planet. It might be connected to why pirates attacked your ship." The young alien's feathers drooped slightly. "I was afraid someone would ask about that eventually." "You don't have to be afraid," Commander Do-hyun said. "We just need to understand what's happening so we can keep you safe." Swiftclaw looked at Minho, then at the two human officers. "My father was a scientist working for our government. He discovered something terrible about the war on our planet. It wasn't a civil war like everyone thought. It was being caused by outside forces who wanted to steal our planet's resources." "What kind of outside forces?" Admiral Ji-won asked. "The Korthak Empire. They were secretly supplying weapons to both sides of the war, making the fighting worse and worse. My father found proof, but when he tried to tell the government, they said he was a traitor. He gave me the information and told me to run." Swiftclaw reached into a small bag she was carrying and pulled out a tiny crystal device. "All the proof is in here. Names, dates, financial records, communication intercepts. Everything that shows how the Korthak have been destroying my planet for their own profit." Admiral Ji-won and Commander Do-hyun looked at each other with serious expressions. "That explains why they wanted your ship destroyed," Commander Do-hyun said. "If this information became public, it would cause major problems for the Korthak Empire." "But I don't understand," Minho said. "If the Korthak wanted to stop Swiftclaw from reaching safety, why didn't they just capture our ship? Why destroy it and leave us to die?" "Because they couldn't risk being connected to the attack," Admiral Ji-won explained. "If they captured your ship, there might be evidence. If they killed you quickly, there might be witnesses. But if you just disappeared in the silent dark, it would look like an accident." "The silent dark," Swiftclaw whispered. "My people have stories about this place too. They say that ships that enter it are never seen again. Most ships that get into serious trouble here don't survive," Admiral Ji-won agreed. "That's why we patrol this region. A lot of people end up here when they're running from danger or trying to avoid the main trade routes." Commander Do-hyun's communication device chimed again. "Admiral, we're receiving a message from Fleet Command. Long-range sensors have detected 3 Korthak military ships heading for this location. They'll arrive in about 6 hours. Admiral Ji-won stood up immediately. "Battle stations. Prepare the fleet for possible combat." "Fleet?" Minho asked. Admiral Ji-won walked over to her desk and pressed several buttons. The wall displays changed to show the space around them. Suddenly, dozens of ships became visible where Minho had thought there was nothing but empty space. "We never travel alone, Captain," Admiral Ji-won said. "The Indomitable is the flagship of Patrol Fleet 7. We have 43 ships in this group, ranging from small scouts to heavy battleships." Minho stared at the display. The human ships had been invisible until now, hidden by some kind of advanced technology. They were arranged in a perfect defensive formation around the area, where the starward echo had been drifting. "You were protecting us even before we knew you were there," he said. "That's what we do," Admiral Ji-won replied. "But now we have a bigger problem. The Korthak are coming, and they probably have orders to destroy any evidence of their involvement in the Zenthari Civil War." "What does that mean for us?" Swiftclaw asked, her voice small and scared. "It means we're going to have a fight," Commander Do-hyun said. "But don't worry. Human ships are better than most people realize." Admiral Jiwan turned to Minho. Captain, I need to ask you to make a choice. We can transfer you and your crew to a safe location far from here. You can continue your merchant career and forget this ever happened, or what? Minho asked. Or you can stay and see what humanity is really capable of. But I have to warn you, once you see our true capabilities, your life will never be the same. You'll become part of something bigger than just merchant trading. Minho looked at Swiftclaw, who was holding her crystal device with her father's evidence. He thought about his crew sleeping safely in the human medical bay. He thought about the pirates who had tried to kill them all, and the Korthak military ships that were coming to finish the job. What exactly are you asking me to do? He said. I'm asking you to help us protect the innocent and fight the corrupt, Admiral Jiwan said. I'm asking you to become part of a network that spans the galaxy, dedicated to keeping people safe. It's dangerous work, but it's important work. And if I say no, then you and your crew will be taken to safety, given a new ship to replace the one that was destroyed, and you can go back to your normal life. No one will force you to do anything. Minho thought about the past few days. The terror of drifting helplessly in space, the fear of watching his crew die slowly, the hopelessness of waiting for help that might never come. Then he thought about how the humans had appeared without hesitation, risking their own safety to rescue complete strangers. They hadn't asked for payment or political favors. They had just helped because help was needed. Admiral, he said, I want to know more about what you're really doing out here. Admiral Jiwan smiled. I hoped you would say that. Come with me. It's time you learned the truth about humanity's mission in the galaxy. Admiral Jiwan led Minho and Swiftclaw through the corridors of the massive ship. As they walked, Minho noticed that the crew was preparing for battle. People moved quickly but calmly, checking weapons and running system diagnostics. Despite the serious situation, no one seemed panicked or afraid. Your crew is very disciplined, Minho observed. We've had a lot of practice, Admiral Jiwan replied. This isn't our first confrontation with hostile forces. They took a lift to a secure section of the ship that required special authorization to enter. The doors opened into a large room filled with holographic displays, computer workstations, and communication equipment. Several officers were working at various stations monitoring information from across the galaxy. This is our strategic command center, Admiral Jiwan explained. From here, we coordinate rescue operations, track hostile movements, and maintain communication with human ships throughout the galaxy. A tall man with captain's symbols on his uniform walked over to them. Admiral, I'm Fleet Captain Sunho. The situation report you requested. Go ahead, Captain. Fleet Captain Sunho activated a large holographic display in the center of the room. It showed a three-dimensional map of the local region of space, with various ships represented by colored dots. The 3 Korthak vessels approaching our position are military destroyers, he said. Heavy weapons, strong shields, and fast engines. They're not merchant ships or patrol vessels. These are warships designed for combat. What about our defensive capabilities? Admiral Jiwan asked. We have numerical advantage and better technology, Fleet Captain Sunho replied. But the Korthak are experienced warriors. This won't be an easy fight. Minho watched the display with growing amazement. The human fleet was much larger than he had realized. Ships were positioned throughout the region, creating multiple layers of defense. Some were huge, like the Indomitable, while others were smaller and faster. Admiral, he said, how many ships do you actually have? In this fleet? 43 combat vessels and 12 support ships. But that's just one patrol group. Humanity operates 17 fleets like this one, plus hundreds of smaller groups. Minho felt dizzy. That's more ships than most planetary governments have. We've been building for 50 years, Admiral Jiwan said simply. Every year we launch more ships and train more crews. Every year we get stronger. A young woman at one of the communication stations looked up. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the lead Korthak ship. Put it on the main speaker, Admiral Jiwan ordered. A harsh mechanical voice filled the room. Minho recognized it as a Korthak military commander speaking in Galactic Standard language. Human vessels, you are interfering. In Korthak Empire business. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. We are here to recover stolen property and eliminate witnesses to crimes against the Empire. Admiral Jiwan walked over to the communication station. This is Admiral Jiwan of the Terran Republic. There are no criminals here, only survivors of a pirate attack whom we rescued. You have no authority in this region of space. We have the authority of superior firepower, the Korthak commander replied. Stand down now, or we will destroy you along with the criminals you are protecting. Admiral Jiwan looked at Fleet Captain Sunho. Battle readiness status? All ships ready for combat, Admiral. Weapons charged, shields up, fighters launched. Send this message to the Korthak ships, Admiral Jiwan said. She pressed the communication button. Korthak vessels, this is your final warning. We are protecting innocent civilians under the Universal Rescue Protocol. Any attack on our ships will be considered an act of war against humanity and will be responded to with appropriate force. There was silence for a few moments. Then the Korthak commander's voice came back, sounding angry and surprised. Humans do not have the military strength to threaten the Korthak Empire. Your species is weak and primitive. We will sweep you aside like insects. Admiral Jiwan smiled coldly. I suppose it's time we corrected that misunderstanding. She turned to Fleet Captain Sunho. Implement defensive formation Gamma 7. All ships are authorized to return fire if fired upon. Priority is protecting the civilian vessels and the starward Echo. Yes, Admiral. Swiftclaw moved closer to Minho, looking scared. Captain, what's going to happen? I don't know, Minho replied honestly. But I think we're about to learn something very important about our rescuers. The holographic display showed the Korthak ships getting closer. They were moving in an attack formation with their weapons powered up and ready to fire. The human fleet adjusted its position to protect the area where the disabled starward Echo was still drifting. Korthak ships are entering weapons range, reported an officer at a tactical station. All ships stand ready, Admiral Jiwan commanded. Suddenly, the Korthak ships opened fire. Bright beams of energy shot across space toward the human vessels. But something unexpected happened. The human ships didn't try to dodge the attacks. Instead, they absorbed the weapon fire on their shields, which glowed briefly but held firm. Return fire, Admiral Jiwan ordered calmly. What happened next amazed Minho more than anything he had seen so far. The human ships fired back with weapons that were clearly far more advanced than anything the Korthak possessed. Instead of simple energy beams, they used some kind of technology that seemed to tear holes in space itself. The first Korthak ship was hit by what looked like a small star. Its shields failed immediately, and large sections of its hull simply disappeared. The ship was still intact but clearly badly damaged. Direct hit on the lead Korthak vessel, reported the tactical officer. Their weapons are offline and their engines are failing. The other two Korthak ships seemed shocked by what had happened to their companion. They stopped firing and began to retreat. Admiral Jiwan opened communications again. Korthak vessels, your lead ship is disabled but not destroyed. We could have easily destroyed all three of your ships, but we prefer not to kill unless absolutely necessary. Take your damaged ship and leave this region immediately. The Korthak commander's voice came back, much less confident than before. This is impossible. Human technology is primitive. You cannot have weapons this powerful. Apparently, you were misinformed about human capabilities, Admiral Jiwan replied. You now have personal experience that proves otherwise. Will you withdraw or shall we continue this demonstration? There was a long pause. Finally, the Korthak commander spoke again. We will withdraw, but the Empire will hear about this. There will be consequences. We'll be ready, Admiral Jiwan said simply. The three Korthak ships limped away from the battle zone, the damaged vessel being helped by its companions. Within an hour, they had disappeared from the sensors. Minho stared at the displays in shock. You defeated 3 military warships without even trying hard. We didn't defeat them, Admiral Jiwan corrected. We demonstrated that fighting us would be expensive and pointless. There's a difference. Fleet Captain Sunho walked over to them. Admiral, should we pursue the Korthak ships? No. Let them go back to their empire with the news that humanity is stronger than they thought. Sometimes reputation is more valuable than victory. Admiral Jiwon turned to Minho and Swiftclaw. Now you understand why we keep our true capabilities secret. If the galaxy knew how strong we really are, some governments would see us as a threat. Others would expect us to solve all their problems for them. It's better to work quietly and help people when they need it. But why? Minho asked. Why do all this for strangers? What do humans gain from patrolling the galaxy and rescuing people? Admiral Jiwon walked over to a window that showed the stars outside. Captain, 50 years ago humanity was in the same position as many of the people we rescue today. We were weak, alone, and struggling to survive in a dangerous galaxy. Other species could have helped us, but most of them were too busy with their own problems. She turned back to face them. We decided that when we became strong enough, we would be different. We would help others the way we wished someone had helped us. Not for profit or political advantage, but because it's the right thing to do. Swiftclaw looked up at the Admiral with wide, admiring eyes. My people have legends about protectors who appear when hope is lost. I think those legends were about you. Maybe they were, Admiral Jiwon said with a smile. Many species have similar stories. Ships that appear in the darkness to help those in need. Perhaps those stories exist because we've been doing this longer than most people realize. An officer at one of the communication stations called out, Admiral, we're receiving distress signals from 3 different locations. A passenger liner with engine failure, a refugee convoy being attacked by pirates, and a research station that's lost life support. Admiral Jiwon looked at Fleet Captain Sunho. Dispatch rescue teams to all 3 locations. Priority Alpha protocols. Yes, Admiral. Ships are already moving to respond. Minho watched as the holographic display showed human ships breaking away from the main fleet to rush toward the new emergencies. They moved without hesitation, ready to risk their lives for complete strangers. This is what you do, he said quietly. This is your real mission. This is what we do, Admiral Jiwon confirmed. We watch over the galaxy and help those who need it. We fight the dangerous ones and protect the innocent ones. We don't ask for thanks or recognition. We just do what needs to be done. Swiftclaw held up her crystal. Minho looked out at the stars through the big window of the command center. 3 days ago, he had been preparing to die in the cold emptiness of space. Now he was standing on the bridge of the most advanced warship he had ever seen, having just watched humans defeat 3 Korthak military vessels with ease. Admiral, he said slowly, what exactly are you asking me to do? Admiral Jiwon walked over to stand next to him at the window. I'm asking you to join a network of captains who work with us to keep the galaxy safe. You would continue to be a merchant captain, carrying cargo and passengers between planets, but you would also carry something else, the knowledge that help is always available when people need it. I don't understand. Fleet Captain Sunho joined the conversation. Captain Minho, we have relationships with hundreds of ship captains from dozens of different species. There are eyes and ears throughout the galaxy. When they see trouble, they call us. When someone needs rescue, they know who to contact. When pirates or hostile governments threaten innocent people, they help coordinate our response. Swiftclaw looked up at Minho with hopeful eyes. Captain, these people saved us. Maybe we can help save others. Admiral Jiwon activated a small, holographic display that showed information about various ships and their captains. Here are some of our current partners. Captain Thorn of the Vorthak trading vessel Crystal Wind, Captain Vex of the Nebulari passenger liner Soft Whisper, Captain Zoltan of the independent freighter Lucky Strike. They all chose to work with us after we helped them out of dangerous situations. What would I have to do? Minho asked. Mostly what you're already doing, Admiral Jiwon replied. Travel between planets, carry cargo, transport passengers. But you would also have access to our communication network. If you encounter someone in trouble, you can call for help immediately. If we need information about what's happening in different regions, you can provide it. If we need supplies or transportation for special missions, You might assist with that. And in return? In return, you'll have the protection of the most advanced fleet in the galaxy. If pirates attack you, we'll respond. If your ship breaks down, we'll rescue you. If hostile governments threaten you, we'll defend you. And most importantly, you'll be part of something bigger than just making money from trade. Commander Do-hyun entered the command center and walked over to their group. Admiral, the Starboard Echo has been completely repaired. Actually, it's been upgraded. Our engineers couldn't help themselves. Admiral Ji-won smiled. What kind of upgrades? New engines that are twice as fast as the old ones. Improved shields that can withstand military-grade weapons. Better sensors that can detect trouble from much farther away. And most importantly, a quantum communication system that can contact any human ship in the galaxy instantly. Minho stared at her. You rebuilt my ship with technology that advanced? Why? Because if you're going to work with us, you need to be able to survive in dangerous situations, Commander Do-hyun explained. And because we want to make sure you can call for help when you find people who need it. My crew, Minho said suddenly. What about them? I can't make this decision for everyone. We've already talked to them, Admiral Ji-won said. While you were here learning about our mission, they were meeting with our officers and learning the same things. Each person gets to make their own choice. An hour later, Minho was reunited with his crew in one of the Indomitable's meeting rooms. They all looked healthy and well-rested, a dramatic change from the tired, scared people they had been just days before. Captain, said Yuna, the engineer, they showed us the upgrades they made to our ship. The technology is incredible. If we work with them, I could learn engineering techniques that are decades ahead of anything else in the galaxy. Hyunwoo, the communications officer, was equally excited. Captain, their communication network spans the entire galaxy. Instant messages between any 2 points, no matter how far apart. If we join them, we'll have access to information that could help us avoid dangerous situations before they happen. Even Seojun, the usually suspicious security chief, seemed impressed. Their weapons and defense systems are better than anything I've ever seen. If we're going to keep traveling through dangerous regions, I'd rather have their protection. What about the rest of you? Minho asked, looking around at his crew. One by one, they voiced their support for joining the human network. Some were motivated by the advanced technology, others by the chance to help people in need, and still others by the protection it would provide. Crystalline 7 chimed her approval in her musical language. Captain Minho, my people's songs speak of finding purpose beyond mere survival. This seems like that kind of purpose. Whisper Wind's gaseous form pulsed with agreement inside her environmental suit. My people believe that those who have been saved have an obligation to save others. We were rescued from death. Now we should help rescue others. Finally, Swiftclaw spoke up. Captain, these humans risked their lives to save us, and they didn't even know us. If we can help them do the same thing for other people, isn't that what we should do? Minho looked around at his crew, his family, really. They had been through so much together, and now they were ready to take on an even bigger challenge. All right, he said. We'll do it. The next few hours were spent learning about their new role. Admiral Ji-won introduced them to other captains in the network through holographic communication. They met a Vorthak crystal trader who had been working with humans for 10 years, a Nebulari passenger ship captain who specialized in evacuating refugees from war zones, and an independent human freighter captain who had started working with the fleet after they saved his ship from pirates. The most important thing to remember, Admiral Ji-won explained, is that you're not soldiers. You're civilians who happen to have access to military support when you need it. Your job is to help people and report problems, not to fight battles. They were given new identification codes, access to the quantum communication network, and detailed information about how to request help in different types of emergencies. They also received updated star charts showing the locations of human patrol fleets and supply stations throughout the galaxy. One more thing, Fleet Captain Sunho said, as they prepared to return to their upgraded ship. You'll be carrying some special cargo on your next few trips. What kind of cargo? Minho asked. Relief supplies for planets that have suffered natural Disasters, medical equipment for colonies that can't afford it, food for refugee settlements, the kind of cargo that doesn't pay much money, but makes a big difference to the people who receive it. We can handle that, Minho said with a smile. 2 days later, the Starward Echo was ready to depart. The ship looked the same on the outside, but inside it was like a completely different vessel. Everything was cleaner, more efficient, and more advanced. The engines hummed with quiet power, and the displays showed information with crystal clarity. Swift Claw had decided to stay with them permanently, becoming their cultural specialist and translator. The crystal device with her father's evidence had been safely delivered to the Galactic Council, and the information was already causing problems for the Korthak Empire. As they prepared to leave, Admiral G1 came aboard for a final meeting. Yuria, first assignment is to deliver medical supplies to the Bandara colonies, she said. It's a routine mission, but it will give you a chance to get used to your new equipment and procedures. What about after that? Minho asked. After that, you'll go wherever your business takes you, but now you'll be part of something bigger. When you see people in trouble, you'll know that help is just a communication away. When you encounter injustice or cruelty, you'll have the resources to do something about it. Admiral G1 shook hands with each crew member. Welcome to the network, Captain Minho. The galaxy is a little bit safer now that you're part of our mission. As the Starward Echo pulled away from the massive human fleet, Minho sat in his captain's chair and looked out at the stars. They looked different now, not empty and hostile but full of possibilities. Where to first, Captain? Hyunwoo asked from his communication station. Bandara Prime, Minho replied. We have medical supplies to deliver and people to help. As they jumped to faster than light speed, Minho reflected on how much had changed in just a few days. They had almost died in the cold emptiness of space, but instead they had discovered that they were never really alone. Somewhere out there, humans were watching and waiting, ready to help anyone who needed it. The quantum communication system on his desk chimed softly, indicating an incoming message from another ship in the network. It was a Vorthak trader reporting suspicious activity near the outer rim. The message included a request for any nearby ships to keep watch for pirates in that region. Minho smiled and sent back a confirmation that they would monitor the situation. This was what they did now. They watched out for each other, helped those in need, and made sure that no one had to face the darkness alone. 3 hours later, they received their first emergency call. A passenger liner had lost its navigation system in an asteroid field and was calling for help. Without hesitation, Minho ordered a course change toward the distressed ship. This is Captain Minho of the Starward Echo, he said in